twice now. Twice. I've either been in the middle of a delivery or just finished one, and it happens. This video is going to talk about an issue that I'm currently dealing with, as well as a couple of things that should be on your radar in the near future. Over the past few weeks, I've been putting in far more hours driving than I usually would due to an upcoming trip, because, after all, who wouldn't want extra beer money when they're on vacation? But, despite my plans, the universe clearly had other ideas for me. Let me explain. I accepted a DoorDash double paying $14 and change delivering to the same customer. Both pickups were uneventful. However, the drive to the customer was a bit of a different story. After my second pickup and about halfway to my customer, my car decided to start having a seizure. And when I say a seizure, started making these random jerking movements that were severe enough to end my drive day. Fortunately, I was able to get the orders delivered and make it home before my car left me up shit creek. I decided to treat my car like a girlfriend who was pissed off at me, leave it alone for a little while, and hope when I came back to it, it would be less temperamental. And it was. At least until I started my evening drive shift. I'm going to spare you the specifics, but essentially, the same symptoms, just worse. Now, fortunately, I took my own advice and I did have money set aside for a car repair. This time. So, it's not the end of the world and it's not going to be a showstopper for me. Again. This time. The first time this happened, however, kind of was like the end of the world for me. A little over 2 years ago, I had just wrapped up a Grubhub order and I was getting on the freeway when my then car decided to start singing the song of its people, and let me tell you, it wasn't a pleasant song. Again, I'll spare you the specifics, but the repair quotes I got back then ranged anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. Needless to say, I didn't have that kind of money, and I didn't have enough saved for a down payment. So, unfortunately, I was kind of up shit creek. Back then, that was a doomsday scenario for me because I didn't have the money set aside for another vehicle, and it was my only source of income. It left me scrambling for a couple of months, and I had to wait until tax time to buy a new car. That dumb shit that I did. Don't do that. Set money aside and be prepared for scenarios exactly like that. Plan in advance so you're not caught off guard like I was the first time. These apps damn sure aren't going to help you pay for car repairs, so you need to set your own money aside for when the inevitable happens. Now, for those of you who may assume that I wasn't doing my maintenance like I was supposed to, you'd be wrong. All of my maintenance was done either early or on time. One day my car was fine. The next it was taking a dirt nap pushing daisies. Set aside 10 to 20% for repairs or a down payment on a new car, because eventually you're going to need it. It's also not a bad idea to have a couple of months' income set aside, so when you're not able to drive like I'm not currently, you won't be stressing. After all, sometimes car repairs can take a while, and when you're out of the game, you're not making money unless you have a second vehicle. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been in the middle of a delivery and had your car break down on you. What did you do? How did you handle it? And most importantly, did you end up with free food? This is part of the reason that I don't believe in taking low and no tip orders. Our cars don't give a shit if we're getting 50 cents a mile or if we're getting $5 a mile. They're gonna break down when they're gonna break down. Low-paying orders end up costing you a hell of a lot more than you may have previously considered. Before we get into the second part of the video, let's do a quick recap on where we're at. Gig work is extremely unpredictable, and we never know when we're going to be taken off the road, so it's always wise to plan in advance for it. Set aside enough for car repairs and make sure you have enough to live off of for when you're out of the game. Hell, start with $50 a week. Assuming you drive 5 days a week and you set aside $10, in 5 months you would have $1,000. It grows quickly. Make that your first goal and continue growing it from there. If you don't want to set aside $10 every time you drive, it's okay. There's other ways you can accomplish the same thing. If you buy coffee when you're out driving, don't. Put that money in savings and bring coffee from home. If you're one of those drivers who goes through a drive-thru every time you're out, stop. That right there will likely save you your $10 a day. Challenge yourself to set aside $50 a week. In 1 year, you would have $2,600 set aside, and in most cases, that will cover a major car repair. At this point, I think you kind of get the idea. I'd like to move on to something that I'm a little more concerned about for everybody. this summer. Now, of course, we all know the summer slowdown is nothing new, and you're going to have every gig tuber out there posting videos like, oh my god, it's so slow, what's going on? But we all know what's going on. It's just summer. However, this time, I feel like there's a few factors that are going to make things more difficult for us. Let me know in the comments if you've seen a huge uptick in no-tip orders. I sure have. There's a growing trend of customers who are pushing back against tipping culture, and as I'm sure I don't need to tell you, that has really negative consequences for us. It used to be that 30 or so orders could go by before I'd see one without a tip on it. However, now it's closer to about 1 in 8 on Uber Eats. Now, on DoorDash, I almost never see them since Earn by Time got rolled out here, and the drivers on Earn by Time are the ones taking them. So, don't do Earn by Time. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that DoorDash orders in my market are any better, because they're not. It's not just the fact that customers aren't tipping like they used to. It's the fact that DoorDash is squeezing the drivers harder than ever, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to get hours. And too many Uber Eats offers pay like this now. In April and May, it's really not a big deal to decline those offers because there's actually order volume. But is that the case in July and August? Let me ask you this. What do you think is going to happen when the order volume is down by 75% and an eighth of customers are refusing to tip? This could potentially lead to a very stressful summer. However, it doesn't have to be like that if you start taking action now. Start shelling money aside now, because if I'm right, and I hope I'm not, this is going to be the worst summer that drivers have ever seen. I can't speak for you, but baking in a hot car in an empty parking lot making $7 an hour is not my idea of a good time. If you plan for summer now, it doesn't have to suck. There's apps that I can't stand, but if it's the difference between making $6 an hour and $20 an hour, you bet your ass I'm going to be opening the Instacart app and shopping those orders. Basically, step out of your comfort zone, open apps that you wouldn't normally open, and do them. Now, this may not be true of your market, but it's definitely true of mine. In the summer, dinner orders come through much later. Any other season of the year, between about 4:30 to 7 is when I get dinner orders. However, in the summer, I start getting dinner orders at about 7, and the later it gets and the drunker people get, the more orders come through. So, be prepared to stay out a little later. Now, I'm not saying that there's not gonna be orders this summer, because that's just not the case. However, what I am saying is there's likely going to be fewer decent orders. So just prepare for it. Start saving money now. Look, what I'm dealing with right now and what we're all about to experience this summer is just part of what we do. It's part of our journey. But if we plan in advance and recognize that things aren't always going to go our way, when they don't go our way, it's much easier to stomach. Well guys, that is going to about wrap up the video. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to my channel. My name is Zach. Take care.